On a quiet Thursday afternoon, a calm atmosphere hung over the police communications room in one of the smallest towns in Alabama, until that silence was broken by an unexpected voice over the emergency line. 911 was a short and innocent call, but it touched the hearts of everyone present and changed the course of many lives. The office was quiet, as it had been in recent months, especially during the last 2 weeks of an extremely hot summer. He believed that no one would dare commit crimes or anything else because of the lack of people in the streets, out of fear of the scorching sun and everyone who could stay at home surrounded by an army of fans. But even the high temperatures couldn't stop Officer Shurter from doing his duty. On that late August night, Officers Carter and Elisa were on duty, ready to act in case of an emergency. That night seemed as boring as all the other nights, until the sound of an incoming call broke the silence and brought them back to their senses. "Good evening. Can you please get me a Happy Meal?" On the other side of the line, there was a small, innocent voice that didn't seem aware, meaning calling the emergency number in the middle of the night. Elisa, who was a professional with experience and known for her compassionate nature, paused for a moment, touched by the innocent request of the child who carried innocence in his voice. At first she thought that the child might have called the wrong number or was playing a prank on her, but she decided not to hang up and started a conversation with the child to find out more. She took a deep breath and answered him gently. "Hello, dear. I think you called the wrong number. Are your mother or father there? If you let me talk to them, we can solve the problem." But the child started insisting on getting what he asked for, and he persisted in his original request. "They can't answer the phone, they're sleeping now. I just want a Happy Meal, I'm really hungry, please can they bring it to my house?" When he said that, his voice began to fade into a faint whisper, which touched Elisa's heartstrings and made her feel anxious, fearing that this innocent conversation might conceal something more dangerous. Elisa felt that this could be more than just a child's whim, and considered the possibility that there might be a problem requiring her immediate intervention. Children often ask for help innocently in situations they can't fully express, because they are not old enough to understand or articulate what they are feeling. "All right, my dear, don't worry, I'll help you." "Please, don't hang up," Elisa said, trying to keep the child on the phone to determine the source of the call and make sure he was okay. With a mix of concern and urgency, Elisa was quickly able to identify the source of the call. The call came from a neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, one of the poorest areas in the entire city, which increased the woman's concern. At that point, she decided to send 2 field workers to the location to make sure the child was safe and to find out the real reasons that made him call in the middle of the night. "All right, my dear, don't worry. I'll help you." "Please, don't hang up the phone," said Elisa, trying to keep the child on the line to determine the source of the call and make sure he was okay. With a mix of concern and urgency, Elisa was quickly able to determine the source of the call. And it came from a neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, which was one of the poorest neighborhoods in the entire city. This increased the woman's concern. At that point, she decided to send 2 field workers to the location to make sure the child was safe and to find out the real reasons that made him call in the middle of the night. "Grace and Benedict, please head to this address. I'm afraid the child living in this house might be in danger. Can you go and see what's happening?" "Thank you," she said to them in a deep voice that reflected her concern for the child. Without wasting any time, the 2 agents headed to the address, their minds prepared for the possibility of encountering a painful reality of a neglected child. "Do you think Elisa was the one who sent us here? You know that children love to play pranks, right?" Benedict asked his partner when they were only 5 minutes away from the house where the call came from. "If you think there's a child in danger, we need to check and make sure everything is okay. And if it's not, you know what we have to do. We're police officers. Our job is to take care of others, whether they're children or adults. Officer Gress responded with a serious look on his face, but they didn't have to wait long to realize that Elisa's suspicions were completely justified when they arrived at the given address. The scene that greeted them did nothing to ease their fears. On the contrary, it only increased their anxiety. The house was modest and looked abandoned, and the front door was slightly open. The toys scattered on the neglected grass spoke of neglect, and perhaps even distress. And the toys that were usually signs of childhood and the happiness of a family with children now seemed like abandoned remnants on the barren grass. For that house, which seemed as if it was on the verge of collapse, when Officers Grease and Bendecht got out of their patrol car, a shiver ran down their spines and the weight of the possible discovery pressed on their chests. They crossed the threshold cautiously and announced their presence in a clear and firm tone, managing to hide the fear they felt as they entered this unwelcoming place. "Alabama Police, is anyone here? Identify yourselves," an officer shouted. The echo of the agent's voice reverberated through the dark hallways of the small house, and their call was met with a disturbing silence that only added to the tension. The air inside the house was stagnant, filled with a palpable sense of neglect and filth, making it hard to breathe. It was clear that this was not the home of a happy family, or even a family at all. And here, a child lives? How is that possible? How? Even I can't stay here for more than an hour without feeling short of breath. Agent Benedict got stuck while entering the house in the pitch darkness, and both agents allowed their eyes to adjust to the dark as they cautiously entered the living room in the middle of the house. What they discovered there made the blood freeze in their veins. The scene that unfolded before them made their bodies tremble involuntarily, and they stood silent for moments, staring in disbelief. In front of their eyes, on an old and worn-out couch, two motionless figures were lying under the faint light of a running television. The room was in a state of chaos, with medicine bottles scattered on the table and the floor, along with other bottles from suspicious sources piled up in one of the corners, creating a disturbing image of a disconnected and unhappy life. Agent Benedict clenched his jaw as he examined the scene, and every bottle was empty. A silent testimony to the deep despair that may have overtaken the adults now unconscious before him and the tragedy they must have lived through. While Agent Grizz went to check the back room in search of the others and the child who made the call, Benedict cautiously approached the two figures lying on the couch to see if they were still alive. They were alive, fortunately, and there was a faint pulse under his fingers, which gave him some slight comfort amid the intense tension. At the same time, just a few meters away from the living room, Grizz found a cramped bedroom amid a scene of scattered clothes and old toys. The agent immediately knew he wasn't alone, and he pointed with his flashlight toward the corner of the room. The beam of light from Grizz's flashlight fell on a makeshift tent made of blankets, the kind only a child could hide in, and indeed there was someone hiding under the blankets inside the tent. There was a little boy holding a wireless phone, his big blue eyes filled with fear and confusion. Grizz felt deep sadness at seeing the child in that state, and she felt compassion for him. Then she gently knelt beside him, and her heart shrank at the sight of his weakness. "Hello, hero. I'm Grizz, and my partner and I are here to help you," she said gently, reaching out to help him up. He trembled at her touch. His reaction was a result of the fear he felt, but when he recognized his rescuer, he clung to her, wrapping his small arms around her neck. "Are you the lady I spoke to on the phone? Will you bring me food?" he asked with hope. The little boy asked enthusiastically. Grace felt great excitement when she heard him say that, and she couldn't refuse his request. "You'll get a happy meal, I promise, but we have to go now. Everything will be fine." "Little one, what's your name?" she said with a smile as she took him out of that dark place. "Jack, Mom. My name is Jack, and I'm very happy to see you," the boy replied with a smile. For the first time outside, the flashing lights of the support vehicles that Agent Benedict had called for a few minutes earlier were visible. They added a little light and color to the night. Meanwhile, emergency services arrived, along with some ambulances and other agents, to thoroughly search the house and analyze everything that was there. The two adults who were found unconscious in the living room were treated quickly and transported to the hospital. At the same time that the young boy was taken out in the neighborhood that was once quiet, the murmurs of activity among the rescue and law enforcement teams filled the air, a harsh reminder of the fragile life it contains. And as the echoes of Jack's ordeal reverberated throughout the community, a wave of solidarity and support spread across the streets of the small town. Neighbors, local shops, and even strangers from nearby areas came together. Together, they wove a dense network of care and attention around the young boy whose life had suddenly been thrust into the public spotlight. Jack, with his innocence and resilient spirit, quickly and unintentionally became a symbol of perseverance that inspired the entire community to be more aware and involved in children's welfare issues in the town. After spending a few days in the hospital and a week at the Social Services Protection Center, Jack was placed in a foster home overflowing with warmth and safety, where his life began to flourish. For her part, Agent Garis, who played a crucial role in rescuing him, visited him regularly. On each visit, she would bring him a happy meal, a simple and cheerful reminder of how they met, and they formed a strong bond of friendship in unusual and remarkable circumstances. Jack's face would always light up whenever he saw the familiar red box filled with crispy fries and a fresh, delicious hamburger, a symbol of a wish come true. Jack's story and his rescue caused a great stir in the community. Within a few months, a local initiative was launched to raise awareness among parents and children alike about the importance of emergency services and their role in family safety at all levels. Workshops were organized, brochures were distributed, and school programs were implemented so that all children would know how and when to seek help, which changed their understanding of safety and protection. From the sad and inspiring story of Jack and his parents, a new culture of awareness began, shaping the city and changing the way neighbors care for one another. In the end, the innocent emergency call from a hungry child not only saved his life, but also sparked a wide-ranging movement that served as a powerful reminder that even the smallest voices can bring about great changes. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave a comment expressing your opinion.